Hey guys, this is Adam Gussow coming at you with kind of a follow-up, and by that I'm not going to teach you that last thing I did, but this is sort of a follow-up to a lesson I did called Fantastic Shuffle Rhythm for Beginners. What did I just do? Well, the prelude to this is, if you haven't mastered what I tried to show you in Fantastic Shuffle Rhythm for Beginners, go back and do that. Then come to this video. Don't watch this video and expect me to show you how to do all that stuff too. This is video number 2, okay? So you start with the ability to carry a basic shuffle rhythm on a C harp. This is a C harp, good one to start on. But by the way, you should try to do these rhythms on other key harmonicas, and especially lower keys. I don't think you have to do it on anything above a D. I mean, you could do it on an E or an F, but really C is the highest I would go, and I would go down into the B flats and the A's and do the same rhythm, okay? So you need to be able to carry this basic rhythm, which I show you in Fantastic Shuffle Rhythm for Beginners. And by the way, the hands are just, they're flavoring, they're not the rhythm. And the reason I tell you that is because when you're starting out blues harmonica, when you're trying to learn, you don't really know how they, meaning a guy like me, is making that sound. So you don't know what part the hands do or don't play in the sound. The hands are the spice. The hands change the frequency response at the listener, the effective frequency delivery at the listener's ears. And when I cup it down, what I'm doing is I'm rolling off the highs. So you're getting mostly the low. And when I open it up, it's really like a wah-wah pedal. Wah-wah pedal simply is like a treble boost. It boosts the high end. It rolls up the high end instead of rolling off the bottom end. Actually, it probably rolls off the bottom end too. Anyway, I'm doing basically my own version of a wah-wah pedal. Why do you think they call it a wah-wah pedal? Because it sounds like a harmonica player doing what we do naturally. Notice, by the way, with my hands, that even a little bit of opening makes a huge difference. I don't have to go, I could, but even a little. That's an important thing to file away in your beginning blues harmonica player brain, okay? Open it up just a little, makes a huge difference. Or you might hold it like this. So you can do that. So what are we doing? In and out chords on the 1, 2, 3 draw and the 1, 2, 3 blow. You should have that. Again, if you don't have that rhythm in some form or fashion, then you need to go back to that first video. Now, we're going to start with that. What are some of the things we can then begin to do with this rhythm? Now, what I've made clear in many videos that I have on YouTube is that this is sort of the foundation. I actually saw, somebody showed me a Facebook video where some Cajun chef is making a roux, and he's taking a cup of oil and a cup of flour and cooking them. This rhythm, the one that I'm beginning with, is the roux in blues harmonica. It is the bass, it's the gumbo bass. And if you've got that, that anchor, it's like a basic dance step, if you're doing African dance, you're doing the boom da doon 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 da doon 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 da doon, right? The sort of basic side to side. It's like anything that involves a basic move. It's like playing catch if you're a baseball player, playing catch with your son, a basic throw, catch, that routine, that rhythm. So you want to master this. It's really important to get it right. Then, once you got it, what kind of changes can you begin to throw on it? Well, one thing you can do is you can begin to alternate the chord rhythm with less than chords, which is to say with single notes. And the easiest one of those to do, it's not easy, but the one that I would start with is the 2-hole draw. Beginning to do the 2-hole draw on the downbeat of 1. So if I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. And that's a shuffle rhythm, by the way, because it has a kind of loping 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. I'm not going to talk about why it lopes, but that's what a shuffle is. You want me to talk about why it sounds the way it does? Because basically it's a 8th note triplets, and they fuse the first 2. So the first note, the dad, is twice as long as the second. Da, d. da, 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 da. That's what you're doing. So it's complicated. It's the feeling of the groove that you want to file away. You can worry about why it works later. We've got the groove. I'm already falling behind. It feels like I'm explaining too much, but maybe nobody's ever taken the time to explain this stuff, to simplify it. And I'm just, my sickness is basically that I can break it down and think it through, and I can also play it. And I think it's important to have both those things. So, 2-hole draw on the downbeat of 1. 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 2, a 2, a 3, a 4, or just 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, a 3. And what would that sound like? If we did it slow, now what's interesting is I can do a 2 draw, but to move from 2 draw to 1, 2, 3 draw, that's the trick in this rhythm, which is to say in this rhythm that involves a single note somewhere in it. So that first move, now I'm using my tongue on the roof of my mouth. It took a while to get here, didn't it? But all that prefatory stuff was important to get you here. Now we're getting down into it. So what exactly am I doing? I'm going da, da, so my tongue is touching the roof of my mouth on each of those two things. But it's touching in a different place and it's shaped differently when it touches, because in the first case, it's the tip that's sort of touching. You know, if I were buck teeth and my upper teeth were poking out, you know, it's like my tongue is touching in the place where you would push your front teeth out if you wanted to make yourself have buck teeth. Kind of right in there where the teeth join the gums, back behind there. Real forward, okay? Can you just do that 2 draw? All right. The second one, I'm doing a full chord. It means my mouth has to subtly enlarge. Let me show you real close up and you'll see what, let me make sure I've got no cameraman, so I'm doing this all on the fly. So I relax slightly, the harp moves slightly towards my lips, my embouchure broadens out. There may even be a little hole that opens up between my upper lip and the harp. That's okay, a little bit of that. You have to learn how to work with that. So that if you can do that, you've got most of what I'm going to show you. So then you finish with the in and out chord rhythm. Now, I have a lesson on a song that I call Stompin', something I made up 25 years ago for beginning harmonica students when I was teaching at the New School, actually the Guitar Studies Center, which is part of the New School in Manhattan, in New York City. I called it Stompin', and it has different parts, but this is the foundational rhythm of that song. So if you're interested in this, you can just go to Google and Google Gussow Stompin', S-T-O-M-P-I-N. I'll try to put a link below this. I have a sort of lesson and a tab sheet. You can pay me was it $2 for the tab sheet if you want. That's a sort of expanded version of this. I'm just showing you kind of seat of the pants, how to use this rhythm. We're going to sort of put it in a song form. So that's what I'm doing. Now notice if I open my hands on the 2 draw, and there's something else. You can hear something else that the harmonica player is doing that he's not telling you about. And remember, this is one of my principles in teaching blues harmonica, is that the guys, the harmonica teachers, there's a lot of them now on YouTube, they don't always know everything they're doing. And so sometimes they put a little something in, a little spin, and they forget to tell you about it. And then you go and you try to play and it just doesn't sound like theirs. And sometimes it's because they didn't know that they were doing this little thing. So, but I can say, wait a minute, I got to be straight with the listeners, with the viewers, with my audience, with you. So what I did there is, as I moved to the 2 draw, I came from a place that was a little bit bigger embouchure-wise than just the 2-hole. Right? Isn't that cool? Now, if I didn't do that, if I just went right in, I could do that, okay. But it sounds a little smackier, It's a weird word for harmonica. It smacks a little bit. I think what I'm doing is maybe I'm not hitting my tongue when I do it in a repeated way, and I'm kind of making it an aggressive hit, right? Like a drummer would have an aggressive hit by. You see what I'm doing? I'm starting a little bit bigger. So what I've got is I've actually got a little bit of a 1-2-3 chord, and then I'm narrowing it into the space of just my 2-hole draw. Okay, I wouldn't worry too much about that. I'm just trying to say if you thought you heard something a little bit cooler than I was describing, that's it. That's what's going on. Okay, and I think this stuff's fun. That's why I share it. It's kind of cool the way that all this comes together. And for me, I've been doing this stuff for so long. You know, they used to say, I remember meeting a fiddle player many years ago named Ernie Reed when I was playing. You can find him on YouTube. There's a few clips. A Nashville fiddle player. Many years ago, he was in his 40s and I was in my 20s, and I was just the young whippersnapper in this Broadway show that was touring. And he was one of those guys about whom people say, you know, he's forgotten more about how to play the fiddle than I've ever known about how to play the harmonica. Well, I feel like I'm one of those guys at this point. I've been playing this rhythm so long. But one of the great things for me is that when I try to break it down for you, I begin to appreciate just how complicated it is and how much stuff over the years I've managed to fold into the mix. I'm like that chef who, you know, has the secret things on the shelf, and you throw a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's how chefs talk, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But what is that little bit of this? What's that little bit of that? The best mastering engineers are exactly the same way. All these little tricks that are almost unconscious, right? Well, that's sort of what good harmonica playing is. So you don't start there. You got to start with the basics. I'm trying to show you, and sometimes I'm going off on little riffs so that when you're ready, you can come back to the video. And I would encourage you. I used to do this with my own teacher's tapes, the tapes I made when Nat Riddles was teaching me. I would go off and I would try to learn stuff, but I'd come back to them. And I would encourage you to come back to this video in a month. Maybe you've been working with it for 2 weeks, you do something else, come back, listen again. You will begin your own playing. As your own playing level rises, your ability to hear the subtleties, as Nat used to call them, the trickier, more subtle things will get better. And that's one of the wonderful things about learning an instrument. Okay. That time I didn't do the 2-draw, I just did the full chord. So you can always go back and forth, right? And I can go wada. So in that case, I held the 2-draw for the full dada. Instead of, I went. Do you hear the difference between and? The difference is the second thing I do. In the first case, I'm doing 2-draw twice. In the first case, I'm doing 2-draw and 1-2-3 draw. They're all part of this mix. They're all part of expanding the fantastic shuffle rhythm for beginners. All right. So I'll show you what I did at the end of the pattern. So I did that for 8 times. And one other little thing. When I do that, when I go from 2-draw to 1-2-3 draw at the very beginning of this rhythm, when I hit that 1-2-3, that first 1-2-3, it has a kind of kick. And you can actually, if you want to, you can accent it a little bit. I'd be careful at first, but this is something you can add. So it adds a little bit of forward motion. See, I'm hitting it a little bit harder. And I wouldn't do it both times. And I'm doing it even harder than I might ordinarily do it. It was a subtle thing. these things are all part of getting that flow going and getting your dancers to begin to say, I kind of like that rhythm. I want to move. Makes me want to move, which is what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, so I did that 8 times, and then I went. So I took the one draw. Be attentive to where your mouth and jaw are. That's with my jaw all the way up. If I drop it, so as you open, especially with the lower harps, here's an A, check it out. It's a little trickier to tongue it when you open it. Anyway, I'm going da da da, da 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 da, and then I'm going to go one blow. And then I'm going to go back. That's the 5 chord on bar 9. I know you're not into 12-bar blues yet. You don't quite know what they are. But I'm going to talk like the beginning teacher in French class. Ah, vous comprenez, monsieur? Je parle français. Vous devriez apprendre. I've lost my accent. You must learn. And you will learn because I will talk with a French accent with French words until you begin to comprehend. Compris? Now what did I do there? I ended with a 1, 2, 3 chord, and then went down to 1 draw. Can you do that back to me? Okay, this lesson is over, but I'm going to turn my camera off and turn it back on and come back with a follow-up, a number 3 that's going to build on this, and it's going to be really, really cool stuff. It's going to be real blues harmonica, not really for beginners because it involves bending the 2 draw, but it's going to make you want to learn how to bend the 2 draw. Anyway, that's all for now. This is Adam Gussow, and I'm your harmonica teacher. I'll see you down the road. Bye-bye.